Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. And, of course, I am your host, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Joining me in Studio B from Missouri, from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, Krista. Beyond BMR goes beyond the mysteries of the world. We take you on a deep dive into all those different rabbit holes, all those realms, all those realities, from Bigfoot to Dogman, UFOs, aliens, time travel to the paranormal, and of course, ghosts. And speaking of ghosts, tonight, my guest, the legendary Keith Age. He's the rock and roll ghost hunter, also the founder of the Louisville Ghost Hunter Foundation back in 1996. It can be a fantastic show. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube. You can find us on iHeartRadio, KPNL Radio, wherever podcasts are found. Don't forget that the Super Chat is open. The Super Chat is a great way to do what we do around here. Your donation also would be awesome. Thank you in advance for that. Again, check out our About pages for everything that we got going on through the week. And you know what we got going on through the week, everybody? Is Texas Front Porch comes on Mondays, 7 Central, 8 o'clock in the East. Tuesdays is Beyond BMR. Of course, that's with myself and Krista every night on Tuesday, 9 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays is on Texas Front Porch, the Diva Dimension. You can find that at 10 in the East on the front porch. Thursday, right back here with myself and Tex for brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. We come on 12 Central, 1 in the East. Thursday nights, 9 in the East, 8 Central. The Blondes, the Booze, the Paranormal Podcast coming at you here on YouTube. And if you need a little more woo with the booze, you get the Blondes, the Booze, Krista, and Brandy. Friday night, 8 Central, 9 in the East. Tex also has something out called Infamous Minds. It's true crime. You can catch Tex Saturday, 3 o'clock in the East. Thank you for each and every single one of you for coming on in. I do appreciate it. And don't forget, for those of you that have bought my book, Bigfoot Michigan Rob Presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. You can find that on Amazon. I got the book link pinned at the top of the chat. You can also find it in this video. You can find it on my YouTube page. And if you really want to get it and you forget what I'm telling you, type in Amazon. Go on Amazon, type in your browser, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. The book will pull up. And don't forget, those of you that have bought it already, again, I do thank you. When Amazon comes calling, please leave a review. The reviews help analytics. You know, Chevy Chase once said, it's all ball bearings. Well, these days, it's all analytics. Analytics helps drive sales. So thank you for that. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up my lovely co-host, Krista. Hey, Krista. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
You know, I'm a little under the weather, but you know, I'm going to power through it, but it's okay. I've always got something going on. It's that time of year.
Me too.
Saw my doctor, you know, took a blood test, got to go back in December again. It's just what happens. We're all run down what we do every
Right.
day,
Normal
working and
old
doing
people
stuff.
stuff, right?
Old people stuff. I just turned 36 yesterday.
Yeah.
No, actually,
Okay.
actually, I did not. My birthday is in late January.
Yep.
So yeah, and yeah, I'm up. I'm getting up there. I'll be 56, I think, or I don't even remember. Once I turn 50, I don't even know how old I am. I
No.
was born in 67. So you guys out in chat and listening later can do the math.
So, yeah, 56, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
good, very quick. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, where does time? I still feel like I'm 25. I do.
Well,
I I can't stay out till 3 a.m. drinking with the boys any longer.
no, no. I sometimes very rarely feel like I'm 25 anymore. Most of the time I feel like I'm 82.
Well, you look fabulously 32, and you just had
Well,
a
thank you.
birthday. Yeah, you just had a birthday
I
last
did
week, I
last
think.
week. Hmm.
Yeah. So again, I already wish you happy birthday. So
Yes, you did. Thank you.
wow.
You were talking about Amazon. I've been checking my Amazon. So I'm gonna be a grandma again in March. And I ordered
wow.
I try to buy like all my kids whenever they're going to have babies, a big gift, an expensive gift. So I ordered this one, a car seat. And so I've been pushed off for like 2 weeks now. And I got a notification saying it's supposed to be here by 10 o'clock tonight. So I keep checking my phone because I don't want a $300 car seat sitting out on my porch,
No, you don't. And God, that's something we could make a show about people
Yeah.
this time of year, porch thieves, porch pirates.
Yep.
Which reminds me, if you want to become a BMR pirate, you can
Yeah.
join up. The link is on this video as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, isn't that a sad thing? I
It
remember when
is.
that
You got to
first,
worry about. That's why I keep looking.
that first started, and I tell you what, I don't have that in my house, and I do get a lot of Amazon deliveries for certain
Yeah.
things. I mean, I'm not one of these people. I don't do all my shopping on Amazon because as a former business owner, I believe in the brick and mortar, right? I
I
believe
get it.
in
Yeah.
going to the retailer. But I do
Right.
get stuff on Amazon because you know why? I'll be honest with you. It's convenient,
It is.
you know, and
It
and and
is.
and I know all of us use that. And again, being a business person, I'm a capitalist, so I get it. But at the
Hmm.
same time, these
Yeah.
poor retailers, especially this time of year, everybody, go to your local retailer and do your
Yep.
shopping.
Local
Do what
mom
you
and
do,
pop store.
because I did some figuring. You're not saving like that much, are you? I mean, you guys still got to pay for shipping, unless
Yeah,
you're
we
a
do.
Amazon Prime
You're
member.
paying for convenience, I think, of not having to leave your
Yeah,
house. And
but you know what? During Christmas season, I will say this: I'm not a big guy to go out into the malls and shop. I never really was, but I will tell you this: I'm kind of sentimental when it comes to the holidays in the month of December. I do like going out into the malls,
oh, not me.
bustling with the crowds, only because it's Christmas. Other than that, forget it.
Yeah.
Send it,
I braved
send it
Black
to my house.
Friday
Yeah.
and went to the store on Black Friday. And I got to tell you, Black Friday is not what it used to be. Black Friday used to be shoulder to shoulder in stores. Wasn't at all. I think everybody does their shopping online.
Well, they do. They do.
Yeah.
The only thing that saddens me, Krista, over the past maybe 5, 6 years, I'm sure you've experienced, and everybody listening and
Hmm.
everybody in chat. It just saddens me, though. One of the great stores I went to that I really liked, it was called Best Buy. I'm sure you've
Oh,
heard of
yeah.
it. Well, the one closest to my house just went out of business.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
and it's 5 minutes from where I live. Just jump on the freeway and you're there. The
Hmm.
closest one to me is 27 minutes. So you know what I'm gonna end up doing? Because I don't want to spend that 27 minutes. I'm gonna look it up online now, I guess.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's the culture we have today. You
It
ask
is.
any kid that's 10 years old, 15 years old, they have no idea what it is to go shop at a Best Buy. Because to
Right.
them, everything's on the computer, it's on the phone,
That's right.
it's on
Hmm.
Amazon. Amazon, a wonderful product, a wonderful company, although they don't pay their workers like they should.
Agreed.
that's a tangent, and I'm not going to get off and get all political or all business.
However, back when you and I were kids, I remember my mom used to give us a catalog to go through and see what we wanted for Christmas. And now I actually had my girls just go on my Amazon account and make themselves a deal, and they drop what they want and that, and then I just shared it with everyone else so they can pick out what they want to get them. So times have changed.
Yeah, you just brought that up. So one more minute before we bring up our awesome guest. I remember getting this. My mom and dad, of course, they got the Sears Christmas catalog. It was, Sears sent the catalog.
What? Yep.
For regular stuff.
That was
right around November 1st or whenever it was, the exclusive Christmas catalog came out, and my mom and dad. Now, of course, this is when I still believe in Santa, but I knew that mom and dad also bought us stuff, and they gave it to my brother and I. Okay, guys, go thumb through here, pick out something you like for mom and dad, to get you for Christmas. So me and my brother, we spend, the whole month, I mean, we probably turned every page individually before we got through all 500 pages and circled every page what we wanted, right?
Right. Same thing.
And of course, mom and dad were like, come on, kids.
Yeah. My kids will never know how fun that was.
No, they won't. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Me too.
There's other things I could also say about the Sears catalog when I got to become an adolescent, but I'm not going to get into that either.
Yep.
We ain't going to go there. However, we got a great guest, Keith Paige, rock and roll ghost hunter. I talked to him like 8 months ago on your show, and I'm pleased to have him on. So without further ado, Keith, I can see you're ready. I'm going to bring you up right now. 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit.
There you go.
Yeah, a hair in a biscuit. I first, before we get started, I want to thank you for coming on, taking time out of your Tuesday night for myself, for Kristen, for our audience.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, especially when you said, you weren't feeling real well either. So we definitely appreciate you coming on feeling blah.
Well, like I said, if you hear me coughing and hacking, I apologize.
No worries.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to Krista earlier, a friend of mine in chat I've talked to. I'm a kind of under the weather. Saw the doctor today. Got some virus. Got something. I gotta go back. But I told I'm gonna tough it out, and I'm feeling okay. I always get pumped up for the show because the show must go on, as they say. Krista could handle it by herself, but I've only missed 3 shows in 2 years. And they were because of deaths in the family or power outages. So with that being said, we're to continue on. So Keith, thanks for joining. And for people that maybe don't know much about you, why don't you give us a little walkthrough of what you're all into the paranormal, you're all into the ghost hunting and such. So I'll give everybody a little background if you would.
Rob, all of a sudden, I cannot understand you.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear? Can you hear at least?
There you go. That's better.
Okay. Well, I'll make it short. For those of the people listening, why don't you give us a little background about yourself? How you got involved with all this craziness?
No.
There you go, everybody.
No. I've been doing this almost 50 years now. And so I'm kind of letting my age out of the bag. And, when I first started this, my life was rock and roll. We're talking the 70s. And, I was on the road touring all over the world playing music when I was 16. So when I first got introduced into the paranormal, it was pretty violent and pretty surprising. And it just hooked me right then and there. Yeah. And basically, I got off the road, met a young lady who would never let me go meet her mom and dad. And I just figured because I had hair down past my butt. And like I said, this was the 70s. This was the sex, drugs, and rock and roll era. And finally, I got to go over there. Her parents invited me over for her birthday. a surprise party. And when I showed up, she was surprised. And I was like, look, your parents invited me. And she's like, it's not that. We have a ghost in the house that doesn't like our boyfriends. And I was like, yeah, let's go smoke another one. Yeah. And so all night long, I kept taunting this thing. We were just a little ranch house. We were sitting on a couch. You could see down the hallway. There was a mirror in the master bedroom that was reflecting our reflection, and something kept walking in front of it. And I'd go down there and tear that room apart. There's nobody in there. So I kept taunting this thing all night. And when it was time to go, I went to kiss her goodbye in the living room at the front door. It was just me, her, and her dad sitting in a recliner. And as I bent down to kiss her goodbye, something grabbed hold of my left arm hard. And
Wow.
great, Dad's got a hold of me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I could see him out of the corner of my eye. He's still sitting in his chair. And before I could react, I got thrown through the front door, through the screen door, and I landed about 6 feet out past the porch. And I
Wow.
was laying there just kind of going, fingers, toes, what's working, what's not, trying to catch my breath. And I went, that was so cool. Do it again. You know, and that's how I got hooked on the whole paranormal thing. And like I said, that was late 70s. So, yeah, a long time ago.
Been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. Now, with the late 70s, certainly nothing psychedelic was involved, correct?
Not at that point. You know, I will admit there were plenty of times, but not at that point.
Mhm.
Well, first of all, I don't judge anybody for what they've done in their
Mm-mm.
life, so we can make that clear.
I
I'm
was
cool.
trying
I'm
to
cool.
definitely impress her parents to make sure they knew I wasn't some, killer from the street or something.
Right.
Like I said, I had hair past my butt and all leather. That was what you wore when you played rock and
Mhm.
roll,
Yeah.
and that was my life back then. And of course, back then, if you said you were, hunting ghosts or looking for ghosts, you had the little guys in the little white coats with the running behind you, going, "Come here, boy, let me talk to you."
Right.
And you couldn't find anything in the local libraries except for UFO stories or Bigfoot stories. And you were very hard pressed to find anything about ghosts or ghost hunting. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you might find a book from Bruck every now and then, or what's his face? I can't think of the name right now. But anyway, you know, and and it wasn't until the '90s when people started kind of going, "Hey, wait a minute, this is interesting. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
this." But
Yeah.
even to this day, it's still a double-edged sword. Some people will go, "That's really cool, and let me tell you this story about my cousin's buddy's friend who did this or has this," or you got the other guys going, "You're crazy. I don't want to talk about this."
I hear you.
Yeah. And we got a lot to talk about tonight. And for people that don't know, Keith, throughout your years serving the paranormal or the ghost hunting world, you've been in several, you've been a producer with several movies, you've been in some television shows. I mean, really, for people that do not know who you are, you're actually pretty popular in this genre. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you've got everything from all sorts of media, movies, television, production, your experiences, and I got to tell you, yeah, I'm very impressed with your bio there, and again, I'm honored to have you on today, man.
Thank you. Yeah, me and the Booth brothers did 10 movies together, 10 documentaries. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
took 10 years to do them. I've been in over 40 different TV shows about ghosts and the paranormal. And then, like you said, I've got my own production company, and we've done several things, not just paranormal, but they're been bought and aired on KET and PBS and TNT, I think one of them. So
Mm-hmm.
there's been a few things we've done,
Yeah.
and like I said, we talked earlier. We're working on a new series that'll be out next year streaming on YouTube's streaming service on the Another Realm Media Network. And so, yeah, it's kind of gone from just being a little ghost hunter to boom.
Right.
And, through the big ghost hunting craze, which was in the early 2000s, up to about the mid-teens. And, I think it's kind of slumping off now, which is okay because, I'm just a rock and roll playing ghost hunter.
Yeah. Okay, I got to know, are there any old rock and rollers out there that you've talked to about ghosts? And if so, who and what did they say?
Well, the drummer for Quiet Riot, we played together back in the 80s before they became famous. Frankie Benali, and we kept up through the years until he just died here recently. He had an experience, and he's really interested. He was really interested in it. There's a lot of old rockers who, because of the fact we have been all over the place, all over the world, different hotels, different this, different that. So you do sometimes capture different experiences and stuff.
Sure.
And, a lot of people talk about different hotels like where Janis Joplin died. And places like that. And the Knickerbocker and, a lot of hotels are, not just rock and rollers, but famous people have died at different places. And they say they experienced their ghosts and stuff. And, it's a universal topic. I will be honest.
Sure.
Well, let me ask you, throughout your years doing this, and I know you followed many great rock bands, rock legends. You mentioned the hotel where Janis Joplin died. What are some of the things that you've throughout your lifetime that came across? Maybe, I don't care what state, could be Hollywood, could be New York, could be Arkansas, Indiana. It doesn't matter. What struck you as like where you got the vibe that, especially with maybe some of these known people, or perhaps yourself, where you were like, wow, man, this is tripping me out right now.
I tell you what, I'm not psychic in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
If you've heard about Waverly Hills, I'm the guy up for everybody. And there's stories and stuff about the guy getting hit with the bricks. Well, that's me. And
really, okay.
If I'm psychic, I would have ducked. That's simple.
Right.
There's only been 3 times that I can tell you where the hair has stood up on the back of my neck upon entering a place. And one is years ago, the first time I went to Round Top in Gettysburg. You walk down that battlefield and you can just feel an energy. The next place was me and the Boot Brothers were the first people to film at the actual Exorcist house.
It's right here in St. Louis, right where I'm at.
Yes, ma'am. And I walked through the door and just felt this incredible vibe, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I was like, this is going to be fun. And in the third place that happened to me was actually on the battlefield at the Little Bighorn, Custer's Last Stand.
Wow.
So the only 3 places I can tell you where I just walked in and went, whoa, this is going to be very interesting.
Right. Let's hop back real quick to the Exorcist house. So, I know I've been by there myself, and the guy that owns the house, I was told he's atheist. He doesn't believe, in heaven or hell, and nothing happens there to him. Do you believe that? I mean, because I've heard other people like, it's just this awful place, and you just said it yourself,
Well, we spent 3 nights there filming, and we had some really interesting stuff. And if you want to see some trippy stuff, go watch our film, The Exorcist Diaries. And there was some stuff that sci-fi that we'd captured. Sci-fi wouldn't even let us put in, and, because they were just like, no one's going to believe this. And we were there. We filmed it. It did happen. That's one thing I can very proudly say about me and the Booth brothers, was that, one, if we captured something, I could tell you what it was, what was causing it, they put that in. Faked anything,
right?
and you gotta have that balance of entertainment and real things. And the way that they did that with the entertainment was they made the story is what the entertainment was, and then the excitement was what the investigation.
Yeah. Do you believe that there's a demonic entity there?
I believe there's something. I never had anything walk up to me and go, "Hi, I'm Beelzebub," But
Right.
I mean, Greg Myers got physically burned while we were filming.
So Greg Myers I was on Paranormal Task Force for quite a few years. So I know Greg really well. And I remember after that, him talking about that and showing us that. It was like on the back of his neck or something, if I remember correctly.
Out of his neck, it was an X.
Yeah.
It just burned into. The thing was, you got in this little bitty bedroom, we got Philip Booth with the big massive movie camera wedged into a closet. He can't get out because the camera's in the way. You got Chris Booth in the doorway filming, and then you had me against the opposite wall filming with a thermal camera. And this was February. This was cold.
Yeah.
And we're up on the second floor of this house, and Greg is leaning up against the outer wall, and the thermal camera all of a sudden started capturing that wall was getting hot, and he's standing next to an outer doorway that cold air is blowing through, and that the temperature on the wall next to Greg eventually got up to over 400 degrees.
Wow.
Been on fire. And, he kept saying, man, this is getting hot. This is getting real hot. And I kept filming going, well, just hold on. Wait a minute. Let's see what happens. Hang on. And finally he said, I got to move. And when he did, that's when we saw he got this welt on his neck. And the only thing we can put it to is the fact, people talk about people being crucified on crosses. Well, originally they weren't on crosses. They were on X's. That's how they crucified them, with, two pieces of wood into an X form, and then they put them up there on them. So here's, we caught this on film, and, so something is there. Don't know if it's a demon or just a really pissed off entity or whatever. I don't get appearance go the whole, oh my God, it's a demon. I don't just that conclusion. I'm still waiting for Satan to appear in front of me and tap dancing on a table. Most everything, when people go, I'll give you an example. We had a local house here in Louisville. A guy called me up one night and said, I really need you to come out. I'm getting ready to walk away from my house. I had a ghost hunting team out here yesterday, and they were here for 15 minutes and ran screaming out of the house, saying I had 7 demons living underneath my stairs. Yeah. So we go out there, and we spend 6 months out there investigating. He talks about his brand new TV, turns off and on, channel changes, this, that, the other. And I was like, okay, fine. And we watched it do that. It did do that. And he's talking about his kitchen door opens and closes by itself. Well, it never closed by itself, but it did open by itself a few times. And, all these little things we investigated. The kitchen door, it's way out of plumb. So, yeah, it just kind of slowly swung open on its own. The TV, I asked him where he got his TV from because it was brand new at the time. He said Walmart had a really good sale on them, and I bought it. Okay, well, he's got it on a wall. Now, this is in a fairly new neighborhood. The house was less than a year old, and I just happened to walk outside one day and was just kind of thinking and walking around the house. And there's only like 3 feet, 4 feet between his house and the house next door. And it's window to window.
Mm-hmm.
You can look into each other's houses. So I happened to look in, and on the opposite facing wall, I see a TV. So I just happened to go knock on the guy's door, the neighbor. I said, I told him what we doing. I said, couldn't help but notice your big TV, your big screen TV. And he said, yeah, what about it? And I said, well, is it new? He says, yep, got it from Walmart. It was just a really good buy. And love it. He says, but it changes channels by itself and the volume goes. He says, it turns off and on sometimes. And I was like, really? So I went and got the remote control for the house's TV, and I went outside and stood between the houses and pointed at the neighbor's house and went click, and it came on. Like, well, yeah, that explains the demonic TV right there. Same TV, same brand, line of sight. You're only 4 feet away, and 4 inches of construction between each.
Yeah.
So after 6 months, I finally told the guy, I said, dude, we're out of here. And he said, well, what happened to the demons? Where'd they go? I said, I think they left 15 minutes after they got here. Not everything is paranormal, number one.
Right.
Not everything is a demon.
Yeah.
Even though there are TV shows that'll have you believe it is.
Well, it really, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you got to use a lot of common sense.
Yeah, you do.
With this.
I had a question I was going to ask you about. You have to be, with all your investigations, I'm sure that on every investigation you've done throughout your career, you had to have some healthy skepticism. But you brought up Demon TV, and it resonates with me because I've talked to many people and they've told me this, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. I don't know that I buy it coming from me. That's just my thought process. But I was told, because I've had a lot of weird things happen to me throughout my life, right? It doesn't matter what I've been doing, whether I'm watching TV, listening to radio, going to the movies, going in the cemetery, going in the woods, don't matter. Mm-hmm. But I was told, and I want your take on this. If you're watching a demonic television program, and let's say that it has to do with the occult, and they're out in the forest, and they're chanting these chants you're unfamiliar with, and maybe there's a sacrifice, maybe there's not, but they're saying this weird language, and it's being presented to you, and you're getting it electronically through your television. I was told by several people, not just one, but half a dozen at least, Rob, you should mute that verbiage out because you're channeling that into your home. Because and the reason I say that, I told a story about when I watch shows like that, sometimes I get nightmares, I get sleep paralysis. So they suggested to me that maybe I was channeling evil by watching these programs. So with that being said, what's your take on that? What's your thoughts?
Well, I thought through all the years of doing this is that you create your own environment, and the mind can do all kinds of different things that we don't know everything it can do yet. And if you believe in something and you believe it can happen, it's more than likely going to happen. This is a faith-based hobby. That's all it is. Now, nothing has been proven. Nothing at all. We barely scratched the surface on it. We're just data takers right now. That's all we can be. People go, I'm here to help the ghosts. And I'm like, really? Prove it to me. When you're talking about skepticism, yeah, I'm probably one of the biggest skeptic ghost hunters there is out there. I have had pieces of wall fly off and hit me in the back of the head and just take me right off my feet. and just rattle my head. Not funny. I've been thrown through walls, through doors. Is it a demon or is it just a pissed off entity?
Right.
My thing is, I think if you were mean and evil in life, that's probably how you're going to be in the afterlife if you're able to come back. If you believe that chanting can create a demon or invite them into your house, if you believe that, then that's probably what's going to happen. If you go look at the Roman Catholic Catholicism, who created the exorcism and the whole demon genre and everything else, it's faith based.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why I think it's good to have a priest, a rabbi, somebody to come. If you think you're having demonic problems, have them come and bless your house, because your faith is, whether it's, Hindu, Catholic, whatever, that's what you need to happen first. So
really what you're saying too then is, regardless of your faith, what you believe in, your religion, your creed, your culture, so you're saying to me though, we can manifest a lot of these things and we can actually make it happen.
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree, Keith.
Yeah, fear, adrenaline, and paranoia go a long way to making a ghost happen.
Yep.
Or making a haunting happen, or a demonic infestation. I've been on a few exorcisms. There's only been one where I just go, wow, this is probably a real, thing. But again, it all back down to this person's faith, what they believed in, how strongly they believed in it. And that's how the whole thing, I think, happened. Because, this person did think that they could summon a demon. And, we had things happen around us that I couldn't explain. 90% of the time I could explain something. I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, but I've been doing this a long time. And usually there is a scientific reason or logical reason for something happening. And, most of the stuff of the calls you get and are just people are scared out of their minds because they've read something, they've watched something, and, no matter what you tell them or what you show them, it's still going to be what's in their mind.
Right.
So
do you think that a person, let's say a weak-minded person, and I'm just coming up with this on the fly here, do you think then somebody that gets scared of the demonic force, or they're scared of the paranormal, or they're scared of life in general, do you think that when we're talking about malevolent forces, that those are the people that they seek out versus a strong-willed and strong-minded person, or it doesn't matter?
That person is receptive to the whole idea. It's not that they're wanting it to happen, but because of what they believe and how they believe and the strength in what they believe, it more than likely can happen.
Sure. I would agree with that. Somebody in chat said this, and I believe your intention is everything. So, a lot of, when we do like private cases and stuff, to me personally, you can't show fear, because if not, you can become a target, and so it's about your intention going in there and with confidence, not cocky. There's a difference, just going in there with confidence and not backing down. I think, I think that's everything.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
But if you're that person that's scared, and it's like, every little thing, even if someone in the other part of the house is walking and, oh my God, I hear footsteps, you're jumping at every little thing. I believe you can become a target because you're showing fear.
This isn't the field you need to be in if you're
exactly.
And I was going to say, with no disrespect to anybody, again, there are people that have their reasonings or the way they were brought up. But to me, it's always the weak weaker-minded people, right? That just don't believe in anything. They're scared of their own shadow. And again, no offense to these people. To me, these are the ones that are taken advantage of in these situations. Hey, listen to me. I tell Krista and Brandy all the time, I'd be scared to go on an investigation and look for ghosts. Yet I'm the same guy that hung out at a cemetery, 10 years ago, drinking beers with my buddies, summoning ghosts, So no, and then when I got home, I had nightmares all night long. But so the thing is, if you really, I think the evil will take prey, or they will pounce on people that they know they can manipulate. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I agree. Everybody wants that thrill of being scared. You're talking about going out and going into cemeteries and doing that. I mean, hell, I did that. We all did that.
Right. Yeah.
And, when people go, well, let's go investigate a cemetery. I'm like going, use a little common sense. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, okay, God forbid you die tomorrow. And they're like, okay. I said, you get buried in a hole. They're like, yeah. I'm like, a hole that you've only seen maybe one time. And that was just a plot of land when you were making your plans for, being buried. They're like, yeah. I said, now here's your options. You can go hunt people that you've known all your life, places you've known all your life, or you go hunt a hole that you've never been to. Wow.
Right.
Orbs. I was like, it's outside. You can't control that. It's dust. It's bugs. And they're like, well, no, I think it's disembodied. Use a little sense,
And I do have to tell everybody listening to chat, I did that once, not for thrills, maybe for thrills. I was a kid, because today I would never do that, because for me today, I respect people that are deceased. I would never go to a cemetery and drink beers and have a good time with my buddies. I did it as a kid. And the thing is, what I'm saying though is, if you have nothing to do with the paranormal or cryptids or any of these things, and you didn't believe in ghosts or Bigfoot, I think those people that do things like that, they have no problems. Since I've been doing this now for quite some time, I think now about what I do. You mentioned intentions. Today, you guys, ever since I had a Bigfoot encounter 2018, ever since I started talking the paranormal with Krista and the girl and Brandy, today, you guys, I really think twice about my actions, because for some reason I think there's reciprocations that otherwise I would never have thought about maybe 20 years ago. Right. Even when I had a ghost encounter when I was in my late 20s and it called a person to get the evil out of my home, I didn't think about that. I thought that I was just some unlucky bastard. Right. But today, after doing what I do today and read up on it and talk to people like yourself, my perspective today is way 1,000% turned around from was, let's say, 5 years ago. So I have more respect for all this. And again, I'm not a cemetery hopper, because that is disrespectful. And what I did probably was, but we were kids and we didn't care. We had no thoughts in the world at the time, like a lot of us do.
Yeah.
So
when we were kids, we'd go out, get a, 6-pack and go drink and just hang out in the cemetery. Nowadays, you got these kids who are higher than hell or whatever, and they destroy. And that's the big difference.
I got to tell you guys this. I'm sorry. This resonates. I got to tell this quick story. I was at the mobile gas station, and I always say the mobile gas station, you guys. Krista hears it all the time. It's right by my house. So that's why I buy, odds and ends, right? I'm up there, and I go to, I talk to my guy I see every day. How's it going? He goes, not too good, Rob. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Well, his grandmother passed away, and he went to the cemetery, and he spent like $250 on flowers, you guys. And he took the flowers and he laid them at her gravesite. And of course, I said, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know about your grandmother's passing. Yes. I said, well, why are you upset? I understand. My condolences. No, I just went there this morning. And do you know that the grave robbers came through and stole all his flowers from his grandmother's cemetery? within
That's awful.
within 24 hours. So Keith, going back to what you said, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we never did that as kids. We might have drank a
Yeah.
6-pack and had our jollies, but to do that, when I heard that, and this is about a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
My
awful.
heart, there was a pit in my stomach for this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. That's just like, at one point I had over 10,000 members in the Louisville Ghost Hunters Society. Like I said, back in the heyday. And the first thing I preached and still do is you don't go somewhere you're not invited.
Yeah.
And because you got all these people going out to these different places that are supposed to be haunted. And a lot of these great places have been burnt down because these people go exploring and they bring candles and they want to try this, they want to try that, and they accidentally burn it down. There's been a lot of sanatoriums that have been that. But back in the early 2000s, I had this podunk Kentucky County Sheriff call me and say, "Are you Keith Age?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Well, I got 26 of your people down here in my jail because they broke into a house that they said you told them to go see." I said, "Sorry, wrong number."
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody to go down there.
Mhm.
Because people don't understand that when you're ghost hunting and you're going to private homes, you've got these people that are trusting you.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you're going in with some people you don't know all too well that joined your team or whatever. And one of the things I learned in the 90s was I keep insurance. If something gets broke, something gets stolen.
Yep.
We one lady fall down a flight of steps and had to be mid-flighted out of there. And, thank God we had insurance.
Yeah.
But we also had the right paperwork saying we were allowed to be there.
Right.
And, it kills me when people think they can just, same thing with the cemetery, walk in anywhere they want and say, "Oh, I'm here to investigate," or "I'm here to steal this," or "I'm here to," you're talking to an ex-cop. And, so my mindset is there anyway. So, you don't go somewhere you're not invited, number one.
Absolutely.
Keith, I want to give you this opportunity because we're going to come back. We still got 4 minutes before we have to take our first break. Well, our 5-minute break. I wanted to get this in for you for those listening. And I'd like to have you expound on this. Back in 1996, you founded the Louisville Ghost Hunters. Is that it? Louisville Ghost Hunters. Is that it? Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit for everybody?
Again, back then, and we only started out with about 3 or 4 members. And that's when the whole thing started turning, shifting, when people wanted you to come see if you could find out what was going on with their house and everything.
Yeah.
And, which we did. And then, I started teaching at a local colleges, doing classes every now and then, and doing seminars. And that's what got the whole ball rolling. And one of the things, like I said, I've always done is you got to treat it like a business. And, yeah, it's fun. And people mainly get into it at the beginning because they're enjoying it with their friends. Something fun to do. It's something you're curious about. And, so we started going out and actually doing investigations. And, there wasn't any other paranormal groups basically around. Back in 1996, I put the LGHS on the internet, and we were the 39th ghost hunting group on the internet. TAPS was 36, we were 39. And now you've got millions upon millions of ghost hunters out there.
Yeah. You were talking about, a lot of these groups just have anybody and everybody. And one thing I can say I did appreciate about like Paranormal Task Force, the group that, Greg Myers and them, that they started, they do background checks, and I can appreciate that because people do go in, we do go into people's homes and you want to make sure, that you're not letting a petty thief or something, come in. So yeah, very true.
And, and you've got to deal with so much drama. It's not funny. I can remember the girls, because I can't go to every investigation. I tried to back then, but TV shows took off that I couldn't do it anymore. But the girls, and I remember one lady who I just considered above everybody else and above, beyond reproach, called me and said, "We got a problem." And I said, "What?" And there was this one guy that had joined the group and gone to meetings and done everything else. They said they're really nervous about being around him. Girls are being accidentally touched, especially in hurt. And, like I said, so it's not just ghost hunting you got to deal with.
Sure.
You got to deal with the human equation too, on every level. So, you've got to run it like a business if you're going to get everything, all that. I'm happy now that we have, about 150 different members, worldwide now, not 10,000 like it was at one time, because, they're using your name and that's all you got is your reputation.
Every bit. Yep.
All you do is have your reputation, and
reputation is everything.
It is everything, especially in these weird fields that we're all interested in, because quite frankly, we're all liars, right?
Oh yeah.
With that being said, we're coming up in the 5-minute break. Thank you, Maggie, for the super sticker. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You get well. I know Maggie is suffering from some illness herself. So Maggie, thank you so much for that. Thanks for everybody for coming on in. We got to do our 5-minute break to take care of our radio side of the show. We'll be back with rock and roll legend Keith Age, rock and roll ghost hunting legend, I should say. We'll be back in 5.
Peace.
nightmares in my head. I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond BMR. Fantastic guest, fantastic show. Keith Age, legendary rock and roll ghost hunter. Fantastic show. Thank you to Maggie for the super chat or the super sticker. Thank you, Lily Pond, lovely Lily, for your super sticker as well. I do appreciate that. It's a great way to help support what we all do around here. Thank you ever so much. Don't forget my book, Bigfoot Mystery Rob. It's on Amazon. It's pinned up top. You can find it on this video or on my YouTube page. And if you've bought it already, thank you so much for that. When Amazon comes calling, it's all analytics these days. So please leave a review when they ask, when they send you that email. Throughout the week, we got a lot of great shows, a lot of great lineups. Mondays is Texas Front Porch. Subscribe to Tex. Monday, 7 Central, 8 in the East. Tuesday, right back here, Beyond BMR with Krista, 8 Central, 9 in the East. Wednesdays is the Diva Dimension with Tex. Well, actually, without Tex, it's on Texas Front Porch. That's 10 o'clock in the East. Back here with me and Tex, Thursday, Brunch with Bigfoot Mystery Rob. We come on at 1 o'clock in the East. That's noon Central. Thursday night, Krista and Brandy, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Check them out. 8 Central, 9 in the East. And if you need more woo with the booze, you got the lovely ladies back again. Friday nights, same time, 8 Central, 9 in the East. Don't forget, Tex does something. Infamous Minds. It's true crime. It's Saturday. It's 3 in the East. Check out Tex. Shout out to Barton Nunley. Subscribe to Barton. Inhumanoids, Barton Nunley, fantastic show. Great interviews with truthers, tells great stories, doing a great job. He's just went live about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Check out Barton. He's awesome. He rocks it. Donnie Cho, questions. Donnie Cho's got a show out. I love Donnie. I don't know if Donnie's still in the chat. Go check out Donnie. Donnie Cho says stuff. Check out little Donnie. Love him. Love you, brother. With that being said, great show. Thanks for coming on in. Again, thank you for the support. I'm going to bring up the lovely Kristen.
Hey.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Hey. That
Great
probably
show.
didn't seem like it was 5 minutes.
You know, it didn't, did it? Because I was like, doing something. I said, man, I got 3 minutes left. And I said I had 58 seconds.
Right?
So
right.
I had to, rush back, get off the phone, do what I was doing.
Right. Well, I actually was on the phone. I was on the phone with Letitia.
Hey, Letitia. Barton's lovely wife from Inhumanoids.
Yep. And Bart's not feeling so well either.
Everybody's got something.
Everybody's getting the bug.
Maggie has something. I got something.
Yeah.
A couple members of my family. I'm pulling through it. I'm doing okay. I can last. But boy, and I normally don't get too sick. But man, I've been I've been down and out with the last couple of days, but you know what? Oh well, I don't want to sing the blues. Although that last riff on that the 5 minute break is pretty sweet. I like that.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask Keith if he liked it. Speaking of Keith, I'm gonna bring him right back up here. Hey
Yes,
Keith,
I
welcome
liked
back.
it. I was enjoying it very much.
Thanks. Yeah, I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate you taking the time to come out tonight,
Mhm.
Said thanks for
spending
having
your time.
me.
You're great.
You know, last time we talked, it was great. I had fun. I'm
Mhm.
having fun now.
Yeah. I do have a question for you. I seen earlier people in chat.
His daughter.
What's that? I'm sorry, Keith.
I said I didn't do it, and I didn't know it was the mayor's daughter.
Now this is an easy question for you. So I know you're over there in Kentucky, and people in chat were talking about the land between the lakes. You ever been there?
Yep.
You ever ghost investigated any of those cemeteries out there?
Like I was saying earlier about cemeteries, it's not something I really do.
Mhm.
You know, unless there's been a tragic death or something like that. But
Right.
a very interesting video from a friend of mine, Robin Higginbottom, where they did an investigation with using thermal and caught something really interesting on it that I can't quite figure out yet. But again, I wasn't there, and I've never been to that cemetery, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And so you know, there can be some interesting things. It's not something I just seek out to do.
Yeah.
When talking about the land between the lakes, there's several houses out there that we have investigated, and you know, a couple of them, yeah, we found some interesting stuff that we couldn't quite pinpoint what it was, and then but the rest of them have just been, like I said, fear,
Yeah.
adrenaline, paranoia go a long way.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. Like there's 237 cemeteries at the land between the lakes, and a lot of them are haunted. However, when we go, we're looking on the other side too for like Bigfoot and Dogman and things like that. And there's a lot of the stories that go along with those type of creatures have to do with cemeteries. So that's a lot of our reasonings for going to some of these cemeteries, because there have been sightings of Dogman or Bigfoot or, something like that there in the area. So, yeah, I was just kind of curious to get your take on that place.
You know, you're talking about cryptid stuff, the Bigfoot, Dogman stuff. You know, it's a subject I am interested in, uh, but it's not something I've ventured to go do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mostly because federal land and places where it's happened at, they don't want you to carry weapons.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's interesting what you say too, Keith, because for myself personally, and I kind of for Krista, because I know Krista as a young girl, experienced some things. And I got to tell you, I was always interested. I will say this: growing up, I was always interested in the paranormal. I was interested in Bigfoot. I saw the Leonard Nimoy In Search of show, and I always liked ghost shows. I liked all the creepy stuff. But the real reason why I started investigating this and looking into this and talking to people is because I had an actual encounter myself. Now, I had ghost encounters, Keith, as a little boy, and I had them again growing up throughout my entire adult life, including when I got married. But here's the thing: until I had that face to face with this creature in 2018, is how I got started doing all this. It's how I started the podcast. Well, I started the podcast 2020, and then I, wrote the book and all this stuff, and I must say though, I've gotten so many great friends during this time period, more friends than I've ever had in my life. And of course, my bestest of friends are Krista, Brandy, Tex, Jason, and there's some people in chat. And it's because it pulls everyone together. But because of that experience, it prompted me, because I felt that I had to give back to everybody what I took, right? I was just wondering, was that kind of your thoughts when you first had your encounter, or your experience, I should say? Is that really what charged you into doing what you've been doing all these years?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Because like I said, my whole life up to that point was rock and roll and
Yeah.
playing music. And I'd always loved the horror movies and stuff like that, but I was never intrigued enough or even thought about going out and doing this stuff. And the family that happened to, I'm still friends with, and they don't live there anymore. And I hadn't seen them in about 25, 30 years, and we got together, and that was one of the very first things brought up. And found out that when they moved, they kept the house and they rented it out, but they couldn't keep renters because things were happening. And then one night, a mysterious fire happened, and it's an empty lot now. Nothing rebuilt there. So,
Right.
yeah, that it definitely changed my course of life. Even though, um, like I said, I'm older now, and last time I went out on tour uh, with a national touring company was 2000. It was almost 20, over 20 years ago. And the last time I went on tour with my band was actually 2018. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
now I just play, I don't have to go do that stuff anymore. It just, you know,
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
but the ghost hunting stuff is still high in my brain.
Oh, sure. You do have a question real quick. BMR, is it okay if we ask them here real
Yeah,
quick?
no, yeah, go ahead.
Corey Cole asks, he said, can you ask Keith about his experience at Little Bighorn?
Spent 3 days out there, and we never got anything conclusive. Like Custer walking up and going, "Here I am with my arrow shirt," or nothing like that, or Geronimo going, "Here we go." Uh, but it just, you got to have number one respect for the area, its history. No matter what you feel or what has been presented, you still got to give respect to it. And like I said, when I stepped on that battlefield, from walking from the road there, I didn't feel a thing, nothing, until I actually stepped on the battlefield where Custer had his last stand. And I love history, love death, and I think history can prove a haunting. And just thinking about, here was 3,000 Sioux Nation. This is where they live, on this little piece of land. That's all it is. It's not very big. It's not like what you see in the movies. And, it's more timber wood and stuff now. But, they got a little creek that runs through it. And you go, this is where they fish. This is where they get their water. And then you go over a rise, and all of a sudden there's where Custer, you see this great big monument where him and his men died. And, it's just inspiring and just awesome.
Sure. Absolutely.
So throughout all your years, I got to ask because I got this strange thought the other day, knowing I was having you on. And is there anything that you can elaborate on, perhaps, about some of our famed rock stars and some of the, we hear about Jimmy Page with Led Zeppelin and Aleister Crowley, and I'm sure that you've kind of looked into that. Not that you've investigated it, but you got to have a take on that one.
Well, again, that goes back to your faith. And back then in the 70s, because he died in the late 70s,
Yes.
Aleister Crowley. And for those that don't know, that was one warped individual. And yeah, I've done a little bit of investigating on him. You know, it's just like the Bible. I've read the Bible several times, and you know, what I pull out of it is this is either the Word of God or this is the best book ever written by a lot of people. And again, it goes back to your faith. You know, because it wasn't just Jimmy Page. I mean, Jane Mansfield, who had an extremely high IQ, spent time with Aleister Crowley.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
you know, it's, you know, I'm not trying to get into politics or anything like that, but some people polarize people, and no matter what they do or what they say, you know, even though other people look at it and go, "Are you kidding me?" You know, people get drawn to them, and that's exactly what happened back in the 70s and the 50s when Jane Mansfield, late 50s, when she was hanging out with him. You know, it was all experimental. You know, it's on a spiritual journey, and that, to me, that's what was part of it. You know, you also talk about the Beatles going to see the Maharishi, and you know, you go from, if you look at the Beatles, you go from a band that basically played 3, 4, 5 chord songs to doing orchestrations, and you go, what hit the switch? What flipped it around? You know, and they say it was a lot of spiritual learning, and I say it was spiritual learning and a lot of good drugs.
Right.
So I took the long way around the barn, but I hope I answered the question.
Well, no, yeah, no, you did. You know, you did. I mean, you know, you only know what you know. What you've looked into. And I got to ask. You know, you talk about this. You know, a lot in the 70s. I was a kid, little, and I didn't quite understand it. But you had all the psychedelic drugs, and you had, you know, the Beatles went from, you know, the short-haired guys. Then they were looking like hippies. You had Jimi Hendrix. You had the Doors, Jim Morrison. And whenever you would watch a video today, it's all psychedelic. And my dad would always tell me, "Yeah, Rob, they're always, you know, they're on some sort of dope." He would say dope, right? So I'm wondering, you know, then we talked about people that, you know, when you alter your mind, your state of being with drugs, alcohol, whatever. And again, I'm not here to preach anything because I don't judge anybody. I don't care what you do. But do you think that influence with these influences had anything to do with the music that they made? And do you think that another force, spiritual force, kind of manipulated their music?
Again, like I said, you know, you go back and you go, what flipped the switch from going 4 chord, 5 chord songs to orchestrations?
Right.
You know, and they weren't the only thing. It's like, if you remember the original 60s TV show, The Avengers, British TV show with Patrick McNee, who I got to be friends with later in life before he died. And him and I had a chance to talk several times about Brian Clemens, who came in and changed the whole format of the Avengers when he added Diana Rigg and changed the stories and stuff to where they were more fanciful, and instead of just being espionage and boring, you know. And I asked, I said, well, why did all that change? And he said, number one, for ratings. Number two, Brian Clemens, who was this hip young kid at the time, who, you know, was known to go do spiritual weekends, is what he called it. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, oh, there was a lot of parties, a lot of drugs. He said, you get these ideas for the show. And that's where it all came from.
Wow.
And, you know, so I think, like you were saying, excuse me, your state of mind has a lot to, that's what we were talking about earlier, has a lot to do with hauntings. How you feel about stuff and how you feel about things can manifest into different things. you know. So yeah, again, I went the long way around the barn. I apologize.
You're good.
No, you're fantastic. I'm loving this show. I could talk for hours on this. Um, okay, I'll ask you this, and this is kind of a loaded question, I guess, but it's more of an opinion. And I hate to reflect back and say since you've been around a long time because I hate saying that. You think that Hollywood is highly weird, and do you think that is last time I spoke with you about 8 months ago, we talked about the Viper Room where River Phoenix died. We talked about Johnny Depp. We talked about
Yeah, Viper
the
Room.
strange things about the Viper Room. If you could shed some light on that for our new listeners.
Well, you know, the Viper Room in the 80s was the place to go out in Hollywood to party. You know, anything you wanted, you could get. And, you know, the Viper Room itself is not there anymore, but there's still a club there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not as famous as it once was, but a lot of people, you know, famous people died there, you know, or died from being there. You know, you're talking about Johnny Depp, who didn't die there, but he had plenty of experiences, you know, the psychedelic type of experiences there. He talked about them.
Mhm.
Phoenix did die there.
Yeah, River Phoenix.
Yep.
Belushi left there and died. You know, various different people and stuff. And, you know, the 80s was a whole different ball game, just like the 70s was. I mean, people would bring out bowls of smoke and hash and just say, have fun. You know, they knew they weren't going to get in trouble about it until somebody died. And,
Right.
you know, the Hollywood go-go places and scenes like that. I played a lot of them. And, you know, that's where I met Cassandra Peterson and still friends with her today. And for those that don't know who Cassandra Peterson is, that's Elvira. That's how she started out as a stripper.
Mhm.
And, you know, the Hollywood a Go-Go and places like that, played the bar right next to them. And, you know, just a lot of different places like that. You know, I've always said any place that gives off energy, and if you go into any place like a bar, uh, a hospital, a jail, a school, they give off energy. And I
Yes.
think that's why there are so many schools and jails and hospitals that are supposedly haunted. You know, I mean, Post Town Elementary School is one of my favorite places. You know, people say, well, nobody died there. I said, no, a little girl fell down the stairwell shaft and died several days later at her house. Uh, but this was a traumatic thing that I think it's imprinted. And for those that don't know, before it was ever a school, this Middletown, Ohio had one of the worst train wrecks in the history of train wrecks. And they used the land as a triage. And we have gotten some really great EVPs out there. You know, people saying, I'm burning. Where's my daddy? Little things like that, because you know it happened about a mile away, and that's where they were bringing people to triage them because this was a big empty lot, flat lot, and you know they used it as a hospital setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of all the places you've been to, and I know you've been to a lot of them, what place is your favorite?
I really don't have one because I've had a lot of really cool experiences. Dracula's Castle, I've been there
Oh.
6 times, and it's very cool, especially when you go underground. And a lot
Mhm.
of people think what they see on TV is Dracula's castle, really nice castle. Well, it's not. His real castle was up on top of the mountain called Poneri, and that's where he defended his nation, you know, his sovereign. And it's 2,100 steps to get up there to it, and that's where he impaled the 21,000 Turkish soldiers. And
Wow.
just walking up there, you go, my God, you know, there was 21,000 people murdered here, you know,
Wow.
gruesomely murdered, you know,
Wow.
poles stuck up their butt till it finally went all the way through.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That's why he got the nickname Vlad the Impaler.
We have the Impale, and you know, I was going to ask you too, because one of the places I like to visit on my bucket list, if you will, is Dracula's castle. Now I got to ask, and I really would like to, but so I do look it up. I go on YouTube and I'll put in Dracula's castle, and now what I see on YouTube, it kind of disappoints me because what I see is they turned it into, you know, $10 to get in, and it's kind of more like, how should I say, like going to some special event. I mean, it doesn't look creepy, doesn't look scary.
Are you talking about Bran Castle?
Bram Stoker, no, Dracula.
I'm saying, are you talking about the castle that's named Bran?
Yes, correct.
That's where Stoker stayed at.
Yeah,
He got the idea for Dracula.
yeah.
And, you know, that really wasn't his castle. His
Okay.
castle was up on top of the mountain. It's
Yeah,
called-
that's what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
And, you know, the castle that everybody can call Dracula's castle is Bran Castle.
Brand Castle. Okay.
He was actually imprisoned there as a
Mm.
child and a teenager, you know. But it's really, you go by it and you go, wow, this is impressive. And then you go up to the ruins of Poneri, which is where he actually had his castle. And, you know, the battlements and stuff are still there. You know, so if you go to Transylvania, you got to check out Poneri. Only problem is they close it off sometimes because of the bears, because you have to walk up 2,100 steps in the middle of the woods.
Oh wow.
That'd be cool, though. Just saying.
Yeah, I would not do. I want to do that, Chris.
Last year about the guy skiing down.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
Threw his backpack at the bear. Well, that's going up to Poneri Castle.
Wow.
And you know, the state actually has to close it down sometimes.
I'd be packing going up to the castle. I can tell you that.
I'm actually writing down, and I normally don't do this on a show. I'm writing down with a pen, Poneri Castle.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go over to London and actually walk around to what's left of Jack the Ripper's whole area in Whitechapel, that's pretty interesting too.
Wow, that would be cool.
I'm wondering about that. That would be cool. Whitechapel, Jack the Ripper. Again, nobody knows if that's myth, legend. We do know murders happened, right?
But it's unsolved.
It's unsolved. And I'm wondering if you walk, because now Whitechapel, I imagine, is like modern today, right? I imagine. I have no idea.
Different.
I bet you that's haunted. Oh,
yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who has a TV show, and that's one of the things he wants to do. He wanted to ride around the area, and I'm like, you can't ride around a lot of those areas anymore. He's like, what do you mean? I said, they're just walking past now. You know, it's changed so much. You know, a lot of the places are still there, but they've grown or they've done different things to it. But you know, you get there, it's a whole different vibe. But it's really fantastic. The history is great, and to walk around in it, and you're going, this is where all this happened. You know, Jack the Ripper is not paranormal, but it's, you know, the first, you know, real serial killer that was, you know, put out there. There had been more, but still, it still grabs your imagination and your attention, you know, almost 200 years later.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know,
wow.
I'm going to pick your brain just a little bit, just your thoughts on it, because I know that, you know, Jack the Ripper isn't paranormal. We do know that Whitechapel happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been one of the biggest unsolved mysteries, you know, in the world.
Right.
So, I mean, and then we have all these theories, a doctor, some insane person, which I don't buy that for 1 minute. It had been, in my opinion,
part of the royal family.
The Duke of the royal family, another one. Yeah,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that? I will actually watch stuff on Jack the Ripper every
Me
time I
too.
see it on YouTube, and there's always a little different element every time. What's your take?
Talked to my buddy Jeff Mudgett, who is the great great grandson of H. Holmes, who was a mass murderer.
Right.
H. Holmes was actually in London at the time when all this was going on. And his theory is he thinks H. Holmes was Jack the Ripper. And so, there's still a lot out there. And I think, it won't be solved, or someday one piece of evidence is going to show up that nobody knew about. And then it'll finally click into place.
Yeah.
They probably should have put Sherlock Holmes on that case.
Probably so.
The book, there is a Sherlock Holmes and Jack the Ripper book.
There is. Well, I definitely got to get that one. I probably won't read it. Like the 50 over I got sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
But Basil Rathbone has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, oh, well, okay. Well, yeah, Basil.
I did watch you had talked about possibly H. Holmes being Jack the Ripper. I had watched a documentary, and I think it was with H. Holmes' great great grandson.
Jeff
It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, H. Holmes created the murder castle in Chicago, and actually murdered several women there and men.
Yeah.
For the World's Fair in the early 1900s, and then they did capture him. It is really interesting to find out if you go watch the documentary, because they think he actually traded places with somebody that got hung and got buried.
Wow.
They think he lived on and escaped.
Wow.
And if you listen to the reasoning and stuff, because they actually went into the tomb of H. Holmes and found some interesting stuff that they're going, wait a minute, he might have escaped. This might not be him.
Wow. That's scary thought.
It is scary. This is all cool stuff. I got to ask you this. Of course, we were talking earlier about psychedelics and drugs and manifestations. And correct me if I'm wrong. For those that don't like this type of speak, it's only for a couple seconds when it comes to drugs, right? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle he wrote Sherlock Holmes, correct? And if it was a myth or fact that he wrote that entire piece, that novel, Addicted to Cocaine. Again, talking about how people come up with these crazy ideas, whether they got them from some other force or not.
Well, it is one of the theories out there that he wrote the original Sherlock Holmes story out of cocaine. But you got to remember, back then, cocaine was not a drug. It was, or an illicit drug. It was fine to use, and they didn't use it as blow like we do now. They used it in elixirs. I mean, even the original Coca-Cola had
some in it.
Cocaine in it.
If you go to Mexico, it's still in it.
Yeah. And, and if you go look, his wife was very big into spirituality, and he was friends with Harry Houdini, and that's what caused a major rift in their friendship, was spirituality, because that's when Houdini was, was showing a light about spirituality, about how there's be fakers and frauds in it. And he proved that everything they do in a room, Harry Houdini can do it. The bells, the table lifting, it's great stuff. I mean, when you start going back, like I said, I love history. Just love it.
Me too.
And, if you go back and you read this stuff, and that's one of the things I do when I teach, I tell people, learn your craft. You got to know where you came from to where you're going to, or to get where you're going to. It's just like, like I said, I'm not psychic. I use a lot of gear and equipment, and you got to know how this stuff works and why it works.
Mm-hmm.
And, people just think, oh, I'll take a camera, I'll take my cell phone. Well, cell phones, especially back in the 90s, were crap, for photography. They've gotten a whole lot better now. But, people actually film whole movies on cell phones now. And because
Yeah.
they're trying to be that good. And, it's just like I'm sitting here with this piece of equipment right here. My buddy James made it for me, James Claretta.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you can see that or not,
Mm-hmm.
but it's got a REM pod on it,
Oh, wow.
got an EMF meter on it. It has the best digital thermometer I have ever seen in my life. Right now, it's reading at 60 degrees, but if I just touch it, it's now going up. It's 78 degrees now. It's going to read what's actually there.
Wow.
So you got to learn your stuff. You got to
Mm-hmm.
learn your craft. And I was a photography major, and I still love photography. And but people go, well, what do you like to use when you're ghost hunting? Well, I like to use something that's scientifically based. So I use thermal a whole lot, and
Mm-hmm.
spectrum. I use that a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because you can't argue with it. If it captures something, that's just like when we were filming for Children of the Grave 2, and I caught what I call the Peter Pan effect. We sent it to FLIR, and I said, what is this? And explained the parameters and everything to them, and they come back going, we have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
These are the guys that created it,
Right.
And so I felt really good about that for the simple fact, not because they couldn't tell me what it was, but for the simple fact we have caught something that science has no idea what it is. Our
Absolutely.
modern day science that we know of right now.
Yeah.
And if you want to see what that is, go watch Children of the Grave 2.
Mm-hmm. I recommend them as well. I've watched Children of the Grave and The Haunted Boy, all of them.
Yeah. And speaking of that, perfect timing because we're coming up towards the end. And Keith, for what you've done in the past, what you got going on, I want you to tell our audience, and later on, send me the links to. I can hook you up on the channel here. Where can we find you? What productions you got going on, so our fans, our listeners, our people in chat can look you up.
Well, what we got going on right now is we're finishing the series Bourbon Spirits, where we have caught some just amazing stuff on film at different places. And we got to finish that up, which we'll finish it up after the first of the year with one more investigation to film. And then after that, I'm also working on another documentary called The Ballad of Rusty Inns, The Last of the Boogeyman. Rusty Inns is a local musical legend around here who has played with just tons of legends. He's taught a lot of people. He taught me how to play when I was 10 years old. And so I got to get that finished up. And we've got me and my partner, JC Rositas, have several other different things in the work. One of the things that has interested me for years is the Elmore Rider. And we're going to go do something on that. And for those that don't know, that if you've ever seen Ghost Rider, Marvel Comics Ghost Rider,
Yes,
that's where they got the idea for Ghost Rider from, is the Elmore Rider.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got a few things headed up, and then of course I've already got places lining up to appear at next year, different conventions and stuff like that.
Yep. And also, just going to plug it real quick. We've kind of been talking to you too about attending our Ashmore event as a guest speaker and stuff.
please plug away, Krista. What's the Ashmore event?
That is May 18th at Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois. So we're going to have a few speakers, and like I said, we've been talking about possibly having Keith come. So anyway, I'll get with you within the next week or so, Keith. I have one question though before we get off.
Yeah,
here.
no, Chris, go right ahead.
You're a music man. You're in Kentucky. You had to have been to Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on Bobby Mackey's?
Well, we've had a few strange things happen that I can't figure out. Like boots walking down a stairwell that has been closed off for 50 years. You know, we come down the steps and stop at the very end, and we're like going, "Who's there?" You know, that's how real it was. And had the bull. You know, everybody rides the bull that's in there. Had some things happen in that area. People always say, "Well, I want to see the well." Well, the well is just a covered in hole. You know, what's really interesting to me right now is Bobby Mackey's is actually closed.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, he's performing at a different location. They're supposed to be rebuilding. Something that Chris Maggard, when this all first came out, we were talking about the apartment upstairs where Carl lived.
Yeah.
Last time we were there, the floor actually fell through, and me and Chris Maggard had to pull a girl out of the hole.
Wow.
And so, you know, the place it's in pretty bad shape. I'm glad they're revamping it.
Wow. Yeah, good deal. I couldn't let you go without asking you about that place.
Yeah, please, Chris, if you got more, I know we kind of covered quite a bit.
Well, I mean, you know, he's a musician. It's Bobby Mackey. Yeah. Come on.
Bobby Mackey. Well, yeah, of course. Well, I definitely had a great time with this show. Keith, I will say, I could tell the people in chat really loved you, Keith. They enjoyed it. A lot of great comments. So I do appreciate that. I thank you for coming on.
Oh, yes, thank you. I said, it's always fun. I enjoy talking to you guys. You know, a lot of internet shows, they don't do their homework. They don't have anything to say. They expect you to carry the entire conversation, and you're just kind of like going, "Huh, what do you want?" You know, it's great because we can all three sit here and talk.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's pretty much my show. Even the girls' show, Texas show. It's a collaboration of the people on the panel. You know, we certainly do some homework, but the thing is, I'm interested. I can speak for me. I can speak for all of us. I'm always interested in my guests. You know, if I have a guest on, it's because I'm interested in what you have to say. It would be boring if my guest had 5 minutes in an hour and a half show. You know,
right?
It's about. I'd rather, if I'm not speaking, then I'm doing a good job because we have a good guest. And
you're great. Both of you are.
Yeah, we like to, mix it together.
I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had a great time. And people, like I say, people did love this.
Yeah.
And again, you mentioned everything. If you get a chance, Keith, send it to Krista for me because I don't think we're on Facebook, me and you. If you got a link, I can put that in today's show so people can click on that for you. And I did want to thank, of course, Maggie and Lily for their awesome super chats. Again, the book, you guys, on Amazon. If you bought it, leave a review when they come calling. I do appreciate it. It will be a good Christmas gift. It is priced accordingly for everybody. So, because I know, it's all about pricing sometimes, right? On Thursday, we got the Blondes and Boosts. So today's Tuesday. Wednesday, Texas got Infamous Minds. And then Thursday afternoon, I've got Barry Littleton, the Cryptid Chronicles Thursday. Ghost Dragons, thank you for the super chat, super sticker. And Thursday for you, what you guys got going on?
So for our Thursday show, I have to plug Wednesday show first. So we're doing a part 1 with on Inhumanoids with Bart Nunley
of course,
with Matt Imp, and then on Thursday, our Blonde show, we're going to do part 2 with him. So it'll be fun. And then Friday night we have Marianne Zybel. She's the Missouri representative of the BFRO. And when Brandy and I had our Bigfoot encounter, it was her event. and she was
Well,
right there. And it was actually when Brandy had her Bigfoot encounter and she saw the Bigfoot, it was actually standing behind Marianne's tent.
So Marianne's with the BFRO,
Mm-hmm.
and this is on your live show Friday.
On Friday night. Yep. And
I'm going
then
to make sure that I'm in attendance because I have some BFRO specific related questions.
so why don't you hop on and co-host with us?
Well, maybe I
You know,
might
you're
have to.
always open invitation for you.
Well, you know me. I'm shy. I don't know if I can come on that night.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Thank you. Hey, Keith, once again, man, I love you. Great show. You're welcome anytime on this show. And get in touch with me about what you got going on. I'd like to hook up with you at least one time because I like to get to know my guests and especially the ones that I really, appreciate. And I do appreciate you for coming on. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just find me on Facebook. Look for the Grinch giving everybody 2 fingers.
There you go.
Very good. And Krista, you can find that. Get that to me, Krista. With that being said, thanks again to everybody for coming in. And until next time, for Krista, for Keith Age, I am BMR.